you found us. This is the Voiceover Gurus Podcast. Welcome.
Welcome back to another episode of the Voiceover Gurus Podcast, adjusting microphone position here. I'm Linda Bruno. So I'm on this website. I don't talk about it, but it's really cool. It's a really cool place for you to find other podcast guests. And I come across this profile the other day, and I was seeing this, a British ex-flight attendant who is now a full-time voice actor. And you also have a podcast that just came out, and I became fascinated. So I reached out, and I'm very happy to have Ali Murphy on the show today. How are you?
I'm good, thank you, Linda. How are you?
Good. So first, tell me your background. You're from the UK?
Yes, I'm from the UK, but I actually do live in the States now. I moved here about 2 years ago.
Okay, so where are you from in the UK?
Just south of London, Surrey.
Surrey, okay.
Yeah, where Harry Potter's from.
Oh, my aunt lives in London. She's been there for, God, she's 80 now. So she's been there since she was in college. She fell in love and never came back.
Oh, bless her.
Yeah, I know.
I do love London, to be fair. I do miss London. But
it's a nice stopping point, too, as well for us. You know, we have a place to stay, and then we can travel on to other countries.
London
absolutely.
Is great. Yeah, travelling Europe's so much easier from London. I don't know why I didn't do it more when I lived there.
It's kind of crazy, right? Because all the countries are so close to each other that you hop a train or whatever, and you're there. Meanwhile, here it is. It takes us we can go to Texas, which from New York would be you're in Seattle, you said?
Yeah.
So many, many hours Texas is sometimes its own country as well. But you can just see completely different cultures so quickly just by hopping a train. I love that about Europe and the UK.
I had a complete baller move when I first met my husband, and I was like, I'm going to take you for lunch today, and got him on the train, and we went to Paris for lunch. I'm a pretty cool girl.
Did you meet him over there?
Yes, I did. Yeah, I was not very glamorous on Tinder. You know, that's just the way you have to meet people nowadays. But yeah, I met him on Tinder. But funnily enough, I was actually we matched when I was in Surrey, and then I was a flight attendant, so I then flew and went to Las Vegas, and he went to go message me, and he was like, "Oh man, she's like 5,000 miles away." So, but I was like, "No, it's fine. I'm coming back. I'm only away for two or 3 days at a time."
So, how long have you been in Seattle?
Just under 2 years now. We moved, my husband's an animator, and he got his dream job out here. And so we moved in 2022. So we're coming up to 2 years now. Wow. And we love it.
Is he also British?
Yeah, he's British as well. Yeah.
Gotcha.
So we have a little boy who's 4. Wow. So all of us are trying to learn how to be over here now. It's very different. It's so weird because you think, I knew America. I flew to America every single week for 14 years. But living here is so different, like having a business over here, banking, the post office, everything is so different. I've had to learn how to be a grown-up again.
Building a life. Because I would imagine as a flight attendant, you're there for a limited time on these stops that you have, right?
Yeah, so at the beginning, it was great. It was more like 4 or 5 nights in destinations. So it was like a little mini vacation every time I went away. But towards the end, it was like 1 night, 2 nights. But you'd go so many times. Like I'd do, for example, New York was a 1-night trip, and I would go to New York 2 times a month for 14 years. So that kind of adds up. So to the point where I was like, I had my favourite coffee place and my favourite run route and stuff. So I loved it. I really did.
That's exciting. So 14 years, huh?
Yeah, it was a long time. I was pretty tired by the end of it. And it does get in the way of life. You're never home for Christmas or birthdays or weddings, and it's really hard to meet somebody. So
I'm sure.
It was tricky, and I had other aspirations. I was an actor when I was a kid, and that was originally what I wanted to do my entire life. I went to college and studied acting, and that was all I was going to be. And then I got derailed when I was 20. It was the 90s, and I was told by casting directors that I was too fat, or I wasn't, this is what they said.
So
you're not beautiful enough, and you're not unusual enough. You're just quite ordinary, and we can't cast you. Which was lovely to hear as a 19-year-old girl.
Yes, right. Impressionable.
Yeah, so I was a bit, oh, okay. I don't know what to do with that. And in my acting class, there was this guy who said, Oh, I can't come to acting class next week. I fly for Britannia, which is an airline. It was an airline in England. I fly for Britannia, and I've got a 5-night Orlando. And I was like, well, that sounds fun. Maybe I could do that. And then, fly for a bit, see the world, and then come back when it doesn't matter what I look like, and I can play the mum roles and stuff. Mm-hmm. So that's what I did. But then somewhere along the way, I lost all of my confidence and I wasn't sure. I was like, well, clearly I wasn't a very good actress because I didn't get any roles. And
well, you never know, though. You never know, as we know with voiceover, right? It's all about casting, and either you're fitting it or you're not.
Yeah, and, styles have changed since the 90s. In the 90s, you had to kind of be this beautiful, very skinny. I mean, now I look back on, you watch like Grey's Anatomy or Dawson's Creek now, you're like, holy moly, you are all very thin.
Yes.
It must have been painful.
Right.
So thankfully that's not the case so much anymore. People are celebrating every kind of body look.
Yes.
So, yeah, thankfully it's a bit better now. But I lost all my confidence, I'll be honest, when I was 14 years flying and 14 years telling people, I was rubbish. I wasn't sure. And it really did take some great big slaps around the face from the universe or whoever to get me on the right path and to tell me, no, you need to go back into that creative industry.
Yeah.
It's fun. And,
it's good you listen to those.
Eventually I listened after about 4 years of slaps, yeah.
I told it on my podcast before, and it might have been the last episode actually with another actress, voiceover actress, that when I started as well in New York, I moved up here in 97, and I would take the on-camera classes and do all that, and one of the on-camera directors was like, I'm going to label you sexy ethnic. And I was like, okay, I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do with that. But, you're not pretty enough to be a model, but you're better looking than the average person. So this was the direction that we got, And you sit there and you're like, I'm not sure what to do with this. And how do I make this work for me? And that's when I was like, you know what? I'm just going to focus on voiceover. Nobody cares what I look like. Yeah. I don't have to have my hair cut a certain way, my nails done constantly. And I can be creative and perform without physically being judged.
I love that about voiceover. You can sort of be whoever. And I frequently do my work in my pajamas because I'm usually working in the middle of the night with time difference. I'm still mainly working in Europe. So it doesn't matter if I haven't got my makeup on or clothes. It's fine. I love that about voiceover. You can be whoever you want to be.
Is the majority of your client base in Europe, overseas? Or what do you think the percentage is now? Because, Americans love British voices too.
Well, that's what I thought, but no, apparently not.
Really?
So I most of my work is still Europe and the UK, but I am trying to get more US clients, but US companies want US voices. It's such a patriotic country that they tend to want US voices for things like corporate films and commercials, unless it's a character work. I did do a commercial recently for a mattress company because they wanted a comedy luxury voice. So I did that, and then I did another one for a language app. So that's the only times I'd ever really work in the US is when I'm doing a character or trying to be global in some kind of way. Yeah, so it's not as much as I thought. And I'm not confident enough to try and... I am back on camera now, and I have just booked a role in an American accent, and I'm really worried about it.
Really?
There are so many words that I don't know how to say. Here's an example. In the script, it says, I have to say the words, the horror author. Can you say horror author in an American accent?
Horror?
Your accent.
Author?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How hard is that? Horror author.
I know.
Horror author. It's like the rural juror, right? It's really tricky. So I'm like learning all of these new ways of saying things in my own language, but it's trying to say things
Now, did you book the job or did you...
I've booked the job, yeah. I'm on camera. I'm playing. Again, I think it's a character thing. I think when I'm being a character, I can speak in an American accent a lot easier because it's character. But trying to do corporate work and do all of that, that's really hard.
Lengthy stuff too.
Yeah, yeah. Having to maintain it for that amount of time. So we'll see. Yeah. I'm still working just in British in voiceover.
So now you say you're back to doing on camera. When were you were doing on camera before you got into aviation and then...
Yeah, so I did a few TV shows. And I was on stage as a Shakespeare actress when I was like 15. Then I went on to do some TV up until the age of about 19, I think. And then I started really dropping off. So going back onto camera now, only because I've found some. I mean, I went back into voice acting in 2016, and just loved every second of it. And then I just started seeing some more opportunities for what I could do on camera, and I got that love back and gave it a try. And now I'm fully back into searching for work in both sectors.
That's exciting.
Yeah,
As far as on camera goes, how is the Seattle market for that?
Very little gets made here.
Yeah, I'm just curious.
It's really dire because Vancouver's just 3 hours away, and they have a great film industry,
right.
And it's much cheaper for companies to go up there. It's all to do with taxes, basically. But there are some brilliant filmmakers in the Pacific Northwest who are making some independent films. So that's exciting, and that's starting to build up a little bit more. There's some more things getting made here, which is great. And then the other, I guess blending both voiceover and on camera, there's so many tech companies around me. I'm literally surrounded by Microsoft,
Right.
Google, Amazon. So they all have training videos and corporate film that they need on-camera people for. Also, I'd say that the Pacific Northwest is currently like 25% of transplants. We're all from different parts of the world, so they need different people represented here for the tech industry. So that's good in that sense.
Yeah.
It's like anything. You just got to find your niche or your niche, I should say.
So do you have a Seattle-based agent?
I do, yes. Big Fish Northwest here up in Seattle. And they're great. They cover both on camera and voiceover, which is really nice.
That's great. That's not Ellen Quinn, is it?
No, Melissa Boldoff is my
Okay.
agent. Although, there might be an Ellen in there.
I think
don't know.
she was in Colorado and she retired, Ellen Quinn. And it was Big
lovely.
Fish as well. And her emails were so cool because she had a little animated fish with bubbles.
I know exactly who you mean. Yes,
know?
I think they've gone now, haven't they?
Yeah, I think she
I
finally
remember
retired.
looking for them the other day. Yeah.
She was so sweet. So you have representation. Do you have representation anywhere else?
Yeah, I've got a London agent, Emily Fox, who's just amazing, wonderful agent. So personable. It's so nice to have like a nice friendly relationship, as I do with my LA agents, DPN. Some great people in DPN. So yeah, I've got my agent in DPN. I've got my Pacific Northwest, because that only really covers Pacific Northwest, and then my London agent. So yeah, I get
busy.
auditions from different people,
Yeah.
which is nice. I'm on rosters, and I've got I've got a great agent in Canada as well, Tada. They're amazing. Again, just I've managed to really land some. I didn't have a great relationship with my old London agent. They were very old school. London old school agents were very, you don't speak to us unless we're calling you, and we're not here to develop your career. We're just here to book you work and stuff like that. And but now with Tada, DPN, and Big Fish, they're just great.
They're friendly.
They will happily talk to me. I'm like, where can I focus on, and what can I do to help us both get some more work? And that's really nice. I like
that's
having a
nice.
nice relationship.
So your average workday here starts at what time because of the time difference with your clients?
I try and make the earliest that I work 5:30 a.m. Because then I have to get up at 5 and hydrate and warm up and stuff like that. To work with, I work with quite a lot of Italian and German and Swiss companies, and that I want to be able to accommodate their work days. Similarly, though, sometimes I do work at midnight because then it's 9 a.m. for the Central European time.
Gotcha.
So yeah, I'll try and do that, and then in the daytime, whack out those auditions, and then I work on my podcast and do admin and marketing and all that.
There's always
fun
something
stuff.
to do.
There is never enough time.
Yeah.
Literally, I always find myself, I've got to do this, and just before bed, I best post this, and
It never ends. It never ends. I don't care how many years I've been doing this. It never ends. And I think,
No.
all right, I'm in my 50s now. It's going to slow down. Nope, just never ends. Because then I'm freaking out thinking, oh, wait, I should be working on that. I need to follow up with that client. Oh, why haven't I been paid on this job? The brain doesn't shut off, as you know.
Isn't it hard? Like the organisation skills that you have to have as a voiceover business, remembering to do that, remembering to invoice people. I have forgotten to invoice people before. And thank goodness they're good people who've come back
They
to me.
remind you.
We're still waiting for that invoice. I am so sorry. So now I've got systems. I've got like a whiteboard that where I do the job, and then when I've invoiced, I put a star next to it. So,
that's
and
good.
I've got lists coming out of my ears. But yeah, it's just, and a good CRM. You need a good CRM to remind you of all those things that you've auditioned for. Then maybe you should follow up.
Which one do you use?
I use Nimble.
Yeah.
I've floated between a few over the years, but so far I'm on Nimble, and it's been really good, actually. It's been a bit better for organising my time and for highlighting deals that I've got going on, and not necessarily for pay-to-play sites, but if I get a direct inquiry from a client or from my website, and then you can add it into your CRM as a deal. And it's really good to remind yourself to go back and ask for, not for feedback, obviously, but, can I do anything else? I'm going on vacation. I know you might not have made a decision on this yet. Can I help with anything else? No. Or you've done the job. Go back to them and ask,
Right.
I really enjoyed working with this. Is it possible to have a copy for my portfolio? And it's been really good for just reminding me of those sort of things. And to invoice.
Yeah. Do you use the pipelines? Do you use the little workflow things?
Pipelines,
Yeah, I think those are so great too. And
I'm
it's
just
also
playing with it.
very rewarding to slide it over to the next.
Oh, yeah, very much so. It's hard, like coming from a job, like being a flight attendant in the day, they all have iPads now, but in my day they didn't. I didn't have to deal with tech very much. So it's been a learning curve coming into it I was in my mid-30s when I started. And so coming into a whole different era of technology and trying to learn how to do these things, like use a CRM system or invoicing system and things like that. It's been a journey.
It's bad enough we have to learn how to use a DAW. We have to learn how to record ourselves properly, edit, send out files that don't sound like crap. There's a lot. There's so much to think about.
So much to learn, and it never stops. Like I'm still always learning new stuff and ways to improve my workflow. But I remember when I first started, I literally, before I left the airlines, I knew I was going to leave to be a voice actor, and I would shut myself in my closet with my microphone and just do scripts and make myself reels. I mean, not reels that I'd send out to anybody, but I would make myself a commercial reel or make myself a corporate reel and just test out different, because then it tested out my read, but it also tested out my editing skills.
Wow.
And I would play around with music as well, just so that I had an understanding of that. And that was I'm so glad I did that, because I think I learned so much in those first 6 months. I did an audiobook. Just a cheap one that I got from Mandy. And that was the biggest learning curve. I don't do audiobooks anymore.
Yeah. It's surprising how many people I talk to that say the exact same thing.
But I'm so glad I did it, because it was such a learning curve, just kind of getting in there and working very long hours, making the mistakes, having to accidentally or having to on purpose delete things and start again. It was such a good learning curve. I needed that. I'm glad it happened.
Did you get on the pay-to-plays back then?
I was on Mandy, which was called something else at the time, but I can't remember right now off the top of my head. But that was about it. I didn't really do any others. And then I really fortunately fell straight into learning about direct marketing. And then that's how I ran my business. And then now I am on some pay-to-plays now, but they're not my core part of my business. It's just a part of it. I had to learn a lot in 6 months, and I'm glad I did that. I joined a few things like the Voiceover Network and Gravy for the Brain, and I absorbed every webinar I could do, every class workshop that I could afford. I would do that, and the best ones that I took, there was a couple. First one was a mindset class I took, CBT, and now I can never say it, cognitive
behavioral therapy.
Oh my God, changed my life. Absolutely changed my life, especially coming out of a career that had nothing related to the voiceover industry, and feeling a lot of, self-doubt, self-esteem issues, feelings of unworthiness. Taking that class changed my life, because suddenly I'm worthy. I have the ability to be successful. I just needed to work on that.
Interesting.
So that was great. And then the other class I took was branding. Okay. Which was not something I'd ever really thought about.
Yeah.
But, and learning about branding and website building, and then having that brand out on your social media meant that I could really accelerate my career very quickly. And I guess it's because it probably 8 years ago or so, it wasn't really, not every voice actor had a website. Not every voice actor had a brand. Right. It was just kind of starting back then. But I was straight in there off the bat with a great brand. I worked with a school friend who wanted to be a branding photographer.
How cool.
So we worked together and made some great branding photos. And now she's a great brand photographer. She does loads of voiceover people actually in London. She's wonderful. Laura May Photography. If you're ever looking for one in London, she's gorgeous. And then the third class was marketing.
Well, there you go.
And emailing people. And they're not the 3 classes that I think anybody would ever think about taking when you're starting out in voiceover. Right. You think about doing the commercial reads and the corporate reads and the style and the microphone and all that sort of stuff. But actually those 3, it's the business stuff that helped me more than anything.
That's a great foundation too, especially because you did the CBT, because mental health is such a huge factor in our lives.
Massively. It affects everything that you do.
Yeah. That folks don't really think about or want to think about. I've been trying to get a workout together with my group of people, and it's kind of funny. People are a little hesitant. It's like, I think they think they're going to be, because I have a friend who's also a psychologist, I'll say. And I guess it's that feeling of, I don't want to feel like I have to expose myself, or they hesitate, even though it would be a very loose situation, more about talking about elements to help you bring confidence to your auditions. Yeah. But it's been a tough sell.
It's hard to be vulnerable, isn't it? It's hard to be vulnerable, especially in front of other people. Actually, that was what was great about the workshop I did. It was in front of other people, and everybody just gave themselves, and it was really nice. Nice is not the right word for that at all. It was really empowering to see other people give themselves, and then it gave me the courage to give myself. And that just changing my mindset was absolutely everything. I wouldn't have been able to do any of the things I've done if I didn't have the right mindset for that. And that's mental health it's not mental health issues, it's mental health. Everybody has mental health. I have mental health. I have at the minute positive mental health. But sometimes it can be anxious, and sometimes it can be depressive. Exactly. And it's a spectrum, right? Mental health is something that we all have, and we all need to keep on working at it to make sure that we're healthy, like we go to the gym.
Mm-hmm. So what do you think about mental health, though, for a flight attendant? That must require...
Yeah, and there's real issues with mental health in flight attendants, especially having to work very long hours and not sleeping very much, and then being alone en route. Sometimes, you'd have to... The industry is very unforgiving as a flight attendant. If you've got anything going on at home, you still have to go to work.
Really?
It's not, you only get a certain amount of sicknesses before you get letters and put on probation and stuff like that. So people would go to work not in the best mental health. I remember one time I went to work, I hadn't slept for maybe 3 days. My boyfriend had left me, and I was very, very, very upset about it. And I was in a very big pit of depression. I felt very lost, didn't know what I was doing with myself. And I had to go to Hong Kong, and I remember just being on the flight, like feeling like I was shaking, and just praying that I got en route just so that I could be alone and deal with whatever I did. I didn't eat on that flight. It was so not healthy. And there's been a lot of problems with flight attendants taking their own lives en route.
Really?
And pilots taking their own lives en route. Yeah, and it's becoming more and more prevalent for some reason. Mm-hmm. It's all very well saying it's okay to talk, and we say that like it's a solution. Mm-hmm. But most people who have... serious mental health issues have no desire to talk, and they don't need encouraging to talk because they're not going to do that anyway.
Right.
So I don't know what the solution is. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not in any way trained. I wouldn't even know how to do it, but I guess it's just to do with more support and to, like you say, think of your mental health as if you're going to the gym, to look after it even when it's good. To recognise signs of overwhelm in yourself, to be kind to, if you're pushing yourself over an edge, to know when to stop and to
care for yourself
and to look after yourself. But then is that a privilege? There's people that don't get the opportunity to stop and look after themselves because they have dependents, or they have money issues that they need to pay the rent, they need to pay health bills. So it's a privilege to be able to look after your mental health. None of these are solutions, by the way. I'm not here to give any solutions. No. It's just things I ponder about an awful time. I suffered a lot when I was, after I gave birth, I had horrific postnatal anxiety.
Oh, wow.
It crippled me. And I went from somebody who had a very positive mental mindset, from doing the coaching with the CBT, to having my child and then just being thrown into panic attacks, anxiety,
that's awful.
postnatal rage. That's not one that no one ever talks about.
What?
Postnatal rage, where you're just like,
Rage?
oh my gosh, I want to throw things against the wall.
Wow.
And it's like, I remember being in the middle of the night going, I need to put the baby down because I really want to throw something and can't throw the baby.
Wow.
Obviously. So he's a very healthy and happy boy now. So, no one worry. But yeah, there's just parts of mental health that nobody talks about. And that's why I'll quite openly will talk about my experiences, because maybe that would help if somebody knows that it's not. We all experience things at different points in our life. We can go from being the most positive, happy person in the world to experiencing something, and then suddenly, and it's okay. It's like that. I was in denial for a long time with my anxiety. My doctors were trying to put me on medication when I was like, I don't need medication. I just need a good night's sleep.
Yeah.
And I don't need this. And I remember feeling like I was a failure because I was a new mum, and there's millions of new mums all the time that get up and continue with their lives just as normal, and there's me falling apart. I felt like I couldn't. So that's why I'm very keen for, if you feel comfortable talking about any mental health issues you've had in the past, go for it, because you never know who's listening who might go, okay, actually. And it wasn't until I moved here and the move really caused my anxiety to spike. I was not in a good place. I'd be wandering around the supermarkets just crying for no good reason at all. Just being overwhelmed by the amount of different tomatoes I could buy. And like, this is America for you. And it was my friend Jude, who's also a new immigrant over here. She said to me, I said, I'm really sorry, I just can't get enough air. She went, you're having a panic attack. I was like, no, I'm not. I just don't feel like I can get enough oxygen in. She was like, I have anxiety, and I think you have anxiety too. I think you need to go to the doctor and just see if you can get something that will help you, or talk to somebody. And that changed my life. I started taking anti-anxiety medication. I was like, oh yeah, I feel better now.
If I can high five
and then started
you,
talking
I
about started talking about. I mean, I'm a woman in my 40s, so I've had a hormonal shift recently, and I think that didn't help with the anxiety. So now I'm taking hormonal supplements, and that's really helpful too. But if my friend hadn't spoken to me about it and recognised it in herself, I'd probably still be struggling, going, well, I just have to get on with it, being all British and stoic about it. I can't, nope, everyone else gets on with it, so I can get on with it too. Yeah. But just having someone recognise it and talk to me.
I'm a big fan of talking about it. I've had depression issues and anxiety my whole life. I just had a panic attack yesterday, actually. And I'm on medication for it. But then there's just some times when chemically, I'm not sure what's happening, because it's not like you look at my life and go, oh my God, this, it's never situational. It's like, either a hormonal imbalance. I'm in my 50s, things shift. But, you get a great doctor, you get someone that understands you, and there's no shame in it. You got to take care of yourself.
Absolutely. And it's interesting, like sorry, this has gone way off topic.
It's okay. Well, mental health's important for voice actors, that no one talks about it.
It's true. So I have a 4-year-old son, and from the minute he's born, he's been an extremely sensitive boy, very reactive to everything, very big highs, very big lows. And I've recognised that now, and it makes him just the most wonderful creative boy. Oh my gosh, he's a delight. When he performs, he puts on shows for me, he plays characters, he's so interested in everything. It's great. And he has such big feelings. And I fully can see that when he's sort of going to be in maybe 5 years' time and a bit more regulated, he's going to be the most thoughtful and empathetic boy. Aww. But I know that he's going to be at risk from anxiety when he's older, because he has such deep feelings about things. Mm-hmm. And I think that might be part of it. Maybe it is just who you are as a person. If you're deeply empathetic, which I think a lot of creative people are, because we have to be able to relate to our work, our art, maybe we're more susceptible to things like anxiety and big feelings.
Could be. I don't know. I don't know where it's
not a doctor.
I know. I just know that if you're having feelings or having trouble dealing with it, there's no shame in going and getting help about it.
No, absolutely.
I have several students that coach with me here that are on the spectrum or have anxiety issues. And I have a physical studio, so they come here and I'm right there with them. If they get upset about something, I'm getting upset too. And I'm just saying, it's okay. let's take a deep breath. Let's realize that all we're doing is acting. We're not saving the world right now. We're not curing cancer.
Exactly.
We are expressing ourselves, and we are, focused on performance and try to stay happy, in regards to that. But yeah, there are just things that we all have to deal with. I just wish people, more actors would talk about it. This doesn't seem to be at that stage yet where people are that comfortable to come forward. I think they feel embarrassed, and you shouldn't.
I imagine that most actors and voice actors and creative people have some sort of level of that, because I feel like it's part of the package as a creative person is the empathy, and it's a superpower, but we've got to be able to control it, and we've got to be able to learn how to deal with it. And I guess it's probably just come with age now, but I can really recognise sometimes I'm like, oh, I do not feel good in my heart. I can always feel it in my heart. It's like a heavy heart. I do not feel good. Something's not right, and I don't know what it is. Nothing's wrong. Yeah. There's nothing situational going on right now. But I'm going to just give myself some little time today. Maybe I'll do some painting or take a nap or something. Yep. Again, this is all very privileged stuff that I can do, but it's,
I know.
It's important to be able to recognise, I guess, and understand yourself in the way that you are. And it's not a weakness.
No.
It could be, once we've got a idea of how to work with it, it could be a power.
Mm-hmm. Well, handling rejection is something that we deal with constantly. And unfortunately, if you already have some depressive, tendencies or anxious tendencies, it can exasperate. Yeah, that's the right word.
That's the right word.
Because you're feeling that constant, like, I didn't book a job, and it's tough to be like, oh, it's not me. Of course we're taking things to heart because we are creatives and sensitive people. So it's a whole other avenue to this business that if you're not wired for it, not everybody is.
Well, that's where cognitive behavioural therapy comes in really handy, because you reframe the rejection and reframe the way that you experience it, because most things they're not true facts. Like, the way that you experience rejection isn't true. You're not being cast away because of all the things that you think you're being a cast away from, but you're experiencing it like that.
Right.
And when you have cognitive behavioural therapy, you put yourself in a position that has caused you pain in the past, and you change with magic or science, I don't know which, but you change the way that you experience it. And that's one of the things that I'm very fortunate now, and I guess it's from my cognitive behavioural therapy when I very first started. I don't experience pain with rejection. I can feel disappointed. I feel like, oh, I really wanted that. Mm-hmm. But I don't feel that stomach-dropping ache.
That's good.
With rejection anymore, because the way that I experience it now is, as long as, and this is something I tell my son, as long as you try your best and have fun, there's nothing else that you can do.
Exactly.
And so I know that that's what I do with my work. I try my best and I have fun, and everything else is in the hands of probably about 50 different other people that have to tick off on something. So
Exactly.
Yeah.
But, so have you had any link, do you think, with your experiences with your last career to how you approach voiceover? I'm not sure if there's any type of crossover.
Absolutely, yeah. But, the major thing being, as a flight attendant, I learnt how to speak to absolutely anybody from any background, any position, and in any style as well. So there'd be businessmen up the front of the aircraft that wanted to talk about business, and I was just a sounding board, and I would just have to be very professional. And then there'd be the other ones that wanted a middle of the night counselling session because they were going through something, or they were travelling because they were going to see someone who was dying or something awful. There'd be so many different ways that I'd have to communicate with somebody. And then there's I was 21 years old when I started flying, and I'd frequently fly with pilots in their 50s, learning how to communicate as a human with somebody who was more than twice your age.
Right.
And be friendly and be a good conversational partner. All of those things I was able to bring into my voiceover work. I can totally envision myself talking to a particular person when it comes to copy and different types of copy.
That's
and
cool.
That's really helpful as well. So
yeah.
for sure. I'm also a massive believer that the experiences that you have in your life shape who you are. So the experiences I had as a flight attendant, going to Africa and seeing a completely different way of living, hiking in Utah and seeing these massive, gigantic mountains, all of these little things shaped who I am as a person. And all of those experiences come across in the reads that you have.
Yeah.
So someone said to me, it was my very first VO conference, VO Atlanta, and Laurie Allen said, and it's stuck with me ever since, the best thing you can do in your voiceover business is go have a life outside of voiceover. She said, volunteer, go out and do stuff, go and find a passion. All of those different interests and experiences shape who you are, and then that comes across in your reads in whatever way.
Agreed. Totally. Because also I think that we need to find those relatables so we can figure out how we fit into a script. So if you've had experiences, if it's something that you need to feel passionate about, think of something that has brought you so much passion or brought you happiness. I love to travel. That was one of my big passions before my mom moved up and I got married. And you think about the experiences you have, those things like going to Norway and dog sledding and looking for the aurora borealis is one of the most incredible experiences of my life. So if I have to tap into something that's truly going to bring me that passion, I just put myself back onto that dog sled and look at the sky and remember and relive that experience. But if you don't experience anything, it's tough to find. So the younger students that I do have, because they haven't lived as much life, obviously, as we have, for them, they're like, huh? And I'm just like, well, get out, do things, do anything, just have fun and try to enjoy your life, because it's all exactly what you're saying. You're going to bring it into your performance.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah. So I want to just quickly go back to the flight attendant, the last job, because now you have a podcast. Did you just launch it?
Yeah, I launched it in March. It's called The Red Eye, and it's telling the true stories of flight attendants, pilots, and the passengers. Some of them outrageous, some of them sad. It's basically what I was talking about, all of those stories that happened during my life. So last year, I did a true crime podcast, and it's the first podcast I'd done, and that sort of long form thing that wasn't an audiobook. And I loved it. I really enjoyed that form of storytelling, the suspense and painting a picture with your words. I really, really enjoyed it. And I thought, I want to do more of that work. So I tried to look around and see, okay, where can I get cast in more podcasts? And there was pretty much nothing. So I thought, maybe I should make my own. And I thought, I don't know what I'd talk about. But I just recently started writing down some of my memories, because I have had some crazy stuff happen to me in my past as a flight attendant. And I'd started writing some of them down just so that I don't forget when I'm an old lady. I can pass them down to my son. And I thought, well, there's plenty here already. And then as the luck would have it, and as the big believer in the universe giving you things you need when you need it, I connected with a flight attendant who's an author, and she is an incredibly talented writer. And I said, what do you think about this idea? And she was like, I'd love to sort of collaborate on some of these stories with you. And then we started interviewing other people, other flight attendants that had amazing stories, like my friend who had a woman give birth on board the flight. She delivered a baby in the back galley, which is a really rare thing to happen. But she had that. And now she's a paramedic and has delivered 16 more babies since then. Wow. And, there's been the really funny ones. I've got a friend of mine, I'm always tapping her for stories. I'm like, come on. Can you tell me something else? What happened to you in Japan? Because I'm sure you've had something happen to you in Japan. She's like, oh, gosh. Yeah, I do actually have a story. But she was telling me about the time where a semi-famous woman had taken some sleeping tablets and then drank a bottle of vodka, went absolutely crazy, punched a flight attendant, climbed over all the passenger seats trying to escape, started barking like a dog, spat at the passengers, and they had to handcuff her and they landed in... I can't remember now, Nova Scotia or somewhere, and they had to cart her off and she got arrested. All of these crazy stories, and this is just scratching the surface. Wow. And then there's the down route parties, because, we were young 20-somethings. I went to Kevin Spacey's birthday party once in LA. I crashed that because we were young air hostesses, and they were like, yeah, come on in.
Yeah.
So there's just been so many different events in my 14 years of flying. And I was somebody that I wasn't somebody that stayed in the hotel. I would go out and have fun because that's who I am. And anyway, I've started waffling again, haven't I? This is what I like doing. I like telling stories. And I thought, I'll put this, I want to make my own content, basically.
Yeah.
And you hear that from a lot of people now. Make your own content. If you want to work in the industry, make your own. And I thought this is a really good way of showcasing my voice. I want to do sort of documentaries and podcasts and storytelling.
Tying it all together.
Why not make my own stuff? And it's been amazing, the journey I've been on. I mean, as a podcaster, it's a lot more work than it looks.
Right, yeah.
But it's so enjoyable. And the way I do it, I tell these stories because I have to change names and details to protect innocent or not so innocent people. And so I've done it as like a short audio story, and I've put sound design onto it. So I've been learning sound design, which has been really good fun. And
I can't wait to hear
that. And it's brilliant. Take a listen. It's basically short stories. And if anybody out there has a story about being on a plane, just let me know. I've been interviewing passengers and crew and pilots, and
I've always wondered about those really
handlers.
crazy people that get on planes, or they act insane, and then they have to stop the plane. And I mean, you must have seen stuff like, I'm sure, well, you're going to have it all on your podcast, but
we've got naked people. I've had somebody pee all over another passenger because they had taken sleeping tablets and they weren't awake. They didn't know where they were going. I've had, most of them are really disgusting stories, and also the kind of cheeky stories, catching people in the toilets. And
right, the Mile High Club, right?
Yeah, it's all good fun.
That still exists? People still try to do that?
Oh yeah. I mean, it's been 8 years since I flew, but I presume, mind you, the world has changed a lot in the last 8 years. Who knows if people would risk doing something that might get them into trouble. I flew in the early 2000s. That's when I first started flying. And what I'm finding universally is that the best stories I'm getting from people are from the 90s and the early 2000s. People weren't getting watched so much. There was no social media. There was no cameras filming them do stuff.
That's
so
right.
They got away with
Everybody
a lot more.
has a camera now.
Little did they know I'd be giving them a little podcast shout out in 20 years' time, but I don't have the photo evidence. So.
This is great. So it's the Red Eye. It's the Red Eye podcast?
Yeah, the Red Eye podcast.
The Red Eye
is
podcast.
Available wherever you get your podcasts.
That's right. I'm going to put it in the bio of the podcast here as well. Now, what is your voiceover website?
I'm alimurphy.co.uk. Still got the British sign on there.
Very nice.
And if anybody wants to find me, I'm Ali Murphy Voice on most of the social medias. I'm usually there doing silly sketches of being a flight attendant.
Fun.
Generally making a fool of myself.
Oh, I love it.
Just something I like to do.
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming on to the Voiceover Gurus podcast. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure chatting to you.
Yeah.
I feel like I've just had a chat with a friend for the last however long it's been.
Yeah, it's going to share stories, talk about experiences. That's what it's all about, right?
Absolutely.
It should be. But thank you again. Thank you, everyone, for also tuning in to this episode of the Voiceover Gurus podcast. Check out our workouts that we have a couple times a month. We have our community that you should join. Just head over to voiceover.guru and get all the information. And everyone, have a good rest of your day.
Thanks for listening to the Voiceover Gurus podcast. Real talk about the voiceover industry. Learn more about us and get coaching at voiceover.guru.